Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of Candy Corn Cinema. We're here today with Chris Ingle and myself. We're here to talk about Inglorious Bastards and the A-Team. And why don't we just jump right into Inglorious Bastards, because both of these films have a great big list, big cast, big story, big plot points. I think we should just get right into it. So, Inglorious Bastards is Quentin Tarantino's take on World War II. What he thought should have happened, basically. Chris, what did you think coming into this one?
I'm no, I'm always mixed on Quentin Tarantino. Like his early work, it's blasphemous. I know. I don't like I don't like Pulp Fiction. I don't like Jackie Brown, Reservoir Dogs. It's not my thing. It doesn't work for me. Starting with the Kill Bill movies, all of a sudden I started to get Quentin Tarantino more.
Yeah.
And going into Inglorious Bastards, I enjoyed it so much because it really was like a B movie war film.
Yeah.
And it plays so well, and it's a lot of fun. And what's really great about this film is it's two stories going on at once.
Nice parallel converging stories that go into each other. I love the chapter breakdowns for it, the delineation between them, and how long we sit in some of these scenes. Like the opening scene is 20 minutes, and there's only the slightest bit of action right at the end, but it's all tension the entire scene.
Yeah, no music. I mean, just real quiet,
I was looking up the music. Speaking of that, I was trying to figure out, because as we'll talk about the A-Team later, I was trying to find the composer for Inglorious Bastards, and there's no composer that I can find for Inglorious Bastards.
So there is kind of a half composer, and it's a good choice. Yeah, it's Ennio Morricone.
Yeah, he has 4 tracks for the film that he ended up having because he got committed to another film. So he has 4 tracks that are in here, and then Tarantino takes a few others. He takes a David Bowie song, and he takes a couple other songs.
And for those that aren't familiar with Morricone's work, pretty much the idea of spaghetti western music, as you would think it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the stringent, that's all Morricone. So this has that style, and it carries over too because he uses Morricone again when he does. Actually, now he's done 3 with Morricone. Right after this, he does Django Unchained, and he heavily uses him there. And then Hateful Eight, he also uses him there as well. So Morricone knows kind of this style. This is his genre of music. But he is not the only one. But this is where Tarantino isn't a composer, but he is a really good guy at telling a story in a broad picture.
He'd be a great music supervisor. He'd be a great music if he wasn't a director and a writer and stuff like that. His soundtracks for his films are always on point. He can pick.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's him picking the music. I would not surprise me at all.
I'm pretty sure it's all him. the way he handles his films, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, as we hinted at the very beginning, we open up in Paris, and we open up with a French family getting a visit from one of the best performances I've seen in my entire life, from somebody I didn't know going into this film. I had never seen this person in a film before. I watched this. I was on a trip down to the States. I live in Canada, so I was on a trip down to the States when this film came out, and we watched this in the theaters, and I had no idea who Christoph Waltz was. I had no idea. He was brand new to me, and it blew my mind. He is a very charismatic, scary man, but he's not imposing. He's not like a huge muscle-bound figure, but you're afraid of him. He has that air of power to him.
This is a guy who has been acting. He's Austrian born, and he's been acting for a long time. Not like heavy, but he's been around. But he really doesn't get noticed here in America until this film.
Yes.
This by far was not his first American film, but by far this is what he got noticed for. It was not the first time I saw him. First time I saw him was 2 years later in The Green Hornet. And then Water for Elephants. He did 4 movies in 2011. All boom, 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 boom. So 2011 was his marquee year, but this is the year. He comes in and he plays Colonel Hans Landa And he is just one of the most terrifying men you will ever meet. And yet it's very Hannibal Lecter with a smile.
Yeah. Well,
that's what it reminds me
the
of.
pipe gag is one of my favorites. Oh. It's like, do you mind if I smoke my pipe? And it's like, of course, it's your house, right? It's like, and then it's like, Londa's like, do you mind if I smoke my pipe? And he pulls out this thing that looks
huge
like
Marchand.
It's literally comical. Like, it is too big to be a usable pipe. Like, it's for show, right? Like, it's this thing of his, and I love his performance.
He's a methodical villain for us. He knows what's going on. He is a detective. He is an investigator. He's
Sherlock Holmes.
He has a he very much is, which the Marchand pipe kind of works. Yeah. He is known as the Jew hunter. That is what he is known for. And it's interesting because at the beginning of the film, he asks Shoshana's father,
it's not Shoshana's father. It's Pierre Le Petit. They're the neighbors.
Yeah, that's Shoshana's. Oh, you're right. You're right. Sorry,
Dreyfus.
Yeah. Sorry.
No
you're right. But no, he asked the father. You know, do you know what they call me? Yeah, but I don't care. But what do they call me? It's like he's leading him in there. And he says this is a Jew hunter, and he's like, like a lot of people, they don't like their nicknames. They don't. But you know what? I love mine.
Yeah, we're led to believe he likes this nickname until the very end, where it's revealed where he hates it. He's not a fan.
So methodical. He's just he leads you into a false sense of security, and you feel very uncomfortable with him. And he doesn't let up ever.
No.
You know the tension. And the thing is, it's not the first time in the film that he will do this kind of behavior. He will do it again and again, and you will feel that tension every damn time. And Quentin Tarantino does a great job with the actors that he's opposite when they're in this confrontation mode, where he gives you those eyes. He lets you look at these people's eyes, and you almost, it's like the cartoon, where like the cartoon character knows something's going to happen. They go, whoop, it's almost like that. They don't do that physically, but in the eyes, you can see it, that,
Your pupils dilate, or it's just.
Yeah. So in that opening scene, it kind of sets up one of our main characters. He ends up killing, there are Jews that are hiding underneath the floorboards in this house.
That there are Jews under the floorboard, and he fake calls his Petit's daughters in, La Petit's daughters in, and it's really his soldiers. They shoot the floor, and basically they get everybody but Shoshana Dreyfus,
and she runs as fast as she can, and Londa goes outside, and he's grinning like the Joker. No joke. He's grinning, and he points his Luger at her. And that you're waiting, he's gonna shoot, and he pulls it back up, and he's like, "Au revoir, Shoshana!" And he's smiling like this is the hunt for him, and he's gonna go after her.
It's the game.
And that ends. And that's the other thing too. This follows a Tarantino standard in terms of chapters and a little bit of disassociation at times. I would say overall, in terms of his films, this is a little bit more linear than some of the others.
Yeah. Well, and I think it follows mostly, if I'm remembering correctly, it does follow like a straight timeline. I don't think there's too much jumping back.
They like flash back from time to time.
Like you might be thinking that a part is a flashback, right? Like some of the like when we get to Fassbender scene and stuff like that. That could be before, right? Like that's like very well could be 2 months before they set off for the operation and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's pretty linear, and it's not kind of like, it's not trying to he's not like earlier Tarantino films like felt like he was trying to use the medium to mess with you a little bit, right? Like trying to use film itself to mess with you, and here he's using it to enhance his story. It seems more like he's really like just really into the film itself.
What's great about his character too is we get that for that first 20 minutes, we get that feeling. And then we don't see him again until the second half of the film.
Yeah.
He's gone. We don't see him at all.
And then through the next time we meet Shoshana, basically.
Yeah. Right. So then we bounce back and forth. So at this point we go.
We meet
how many years
Aldo
in the future?
Rain. No, we go straight to Aldo Rain.
Yeah.
We go straight to Aldo Rain.
Because I thought it jumped ahead in time, and then we met the Bastards.
No, I think it just cuts right to Aldo Rain. I think it says 1944, but like, I mean, I think it's basically like, I think later on it says Shoshana is living in there for 6 months, in Paris for 6 months is about.
I thought it was 6 years because she grew up.
Oh, I guess.
Yeah. No,
I guess it'd be 18, and yeah. You're right. Yeah.
Because it was during, I mean, his history moment. The later part is during
41. 41 and then 44. So yeah, so it's 3 years later.
3 years. Okay, yeah. Because I know it's during the Nazi occupation of France, and they're doing their walkthrough, their charge through. So, but yeah, we get to the Bastards pretty quickly after that 20 minutes. And it's intense.
And Brad Pitt, one of Brad Pitt's best characters ever.
He's hilarious to me. In a very weird way.
He's in his character. Funny. I love it. He's like
there's a point where I really just started to laugh at him where and we'll get to the scene, but he says, I speak the best Italian here. And then these other two guys. Now here's the thing. We go into the next scene, and the other two actually speak really good Italian. And him, he's like, I speak Italian. It's Italian. And it's like the most Southern stereotype of trying to speak Italian. Yeah. And it's hilarious. But he's that kind of quirky nature. But this guy is where Christoph Waltz is methodical and menacing and just manipulative and leaves you on that false sense of security, but yet that uncomfortable. Brad Pitt and his men do the exact opposite. They make you feel uncomfortable, but they're straightforward about it.
Yeah.
They go at you with gore, with no holds, with everything right off the bat. And Brad Pitt has a quirk. Why don't you tell the people about Brad Pitt's quirk his victim?
Well, Brad Pitt has a debit. You take on a debit when you join his squad. You need to give him 100 Nazi scalps, and he will get his scalps, and you will give him his scalps, and just. Oh man, and when you
see them scalping
that scene, victims. I love it's so gnarly. I love gore stuff in film because I know it's fake, right? Like that's the thing, right? Like you can love it because it's fake. It grosses you out, but it's gross. But it's like, oh man, those scenes.
And then the other thing he does is in his interrogations, people who he lets live, he asks them an interesting question. You know, when you're done with this war, are you going to go home and still wear that Nazi uniform? And everyone says, well, no, I'm not. And he's like, see, that's where I have the problem. And he's like, when you take off that uniform, no one's going to know that you're a Nazi. But you know what? They need to know that you're a Nazi. So I'm going to give you something that you can't take off. And he takes out a Bowie knife or a buck knife. I mean, it's pretty much a machete. Big old knife.
It's bigger than any Bowie knife I've ever seen.
And he carves a swastika into their forehead.
And we get to see exactly how he does it at the end of the movie too. And it's gnarly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. But those two things are his quirks. And like he's a mutilator. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who does not care. His job is to go in and kick some ass. Yeah. That's what his job is.
Yeah. And when we get introduced to them, like with the scalping and stuff, we get introduced. This is one of my favorite scenes. Is the Bear Jew, like the Bear Jew scene is introducing him through this hallway. The nice echoey back coming down and the music. I love the build up to it. Him talking to the Nazis like, "Do you get that for killing Jews?" Right? Is like, no, for bravery. And and then as soon cutting the music as soon as he makes the contact, all the bastards laughing, and it's like you're pulled back into the moment of, yes, this is still horrible. Like he's beating somebody to death. You're propping it up into this moment until you smack him actually in the head, and it comes back to earth for everybody.
So one of the things to know about this movie and these characters too is that this is loosely based on an Italian film by almost the same title. It's spelled differently, but it's almost the same title, which is also based on The Dirty Dozen. Yeah. Now, if you know anything about The Dirty Dozen, it really gives you an idea of what the characters of the Bastards are like. These are, these are guys that, though they are part of a group to do the right thing, they're doing it in all the wrong ways. This is war. This is the whole idea of I want my scalps. That kind of gives you the character of these guys right away. So
yeah. You're also introduced
we
to
get those
Hugo Stiglitz. You get these introductions in there, and one of my favorites is when they're in the prison scene. You got the German officer sitting there reading the newspaper, and then just one of the bastards runs really fast across the stage and just shoots the ball, and they all die. It's just super fast and quick, and they pull Stiglitz in, and it's great. An economy of storytelling, a great economy of storytelling. Tarantino has whittled things down to you only really need to see what he wants you to see. There's all you need to see.
But then he begins this process of bouncing back and forth between two stories. So that's just chapter 2 is just introducing the Basterds, which is so cool. Chapter 3, we are introduced to Shoshana. She is not Shoshana. She has been hiding in France. She is now, she owns a cinema that she claims her aunt left her. Whether that's true or not is irrelevant. But she's hiding under the guise of a French identity.
Emmanuel.
So she's Emmanuel, yeah, Mignon. And so she's in the middle of Nazi-occupied Paris. And a young German soldier comes up and flirts with her outside, and she's rejecting his advances, but he's kind of charming. He really, until the very ending, he's a charming guy.
He's such a it's such a great predatory role. Daniel Bruhl is great in this role, and this is another one of the German actors that got a great push out of this movie, Daniel Bruhl, because since then he's been in Rush and Captain America. He's gotten a career out of being brought into American cinema, and I love it because here it's he's charming, but under it all there's always this really weird predatory behavior of his, right? Because he can't take no for an answer. He won't take no for an answer. Even when he invites her later, he invites her to she has no idea that he's inviting her. She thinks she's getting taken.
Yeah. So this soldier, we come to find out this soldier is a war hero, but he is also an actor. He has been hired by German propaganda to be the ideal German soldier. This is the hero. This is, and they make a film about a war event that he either did or didn't do. We really don't know, but let's just assume for a second he did. He was a sniper, and allegedly he killed couple hundred men, was it? Over 3 days?
It was 30 the first day, 100 and something the second day, 60 the third day, or 60 the first day, 30 the last day, something like that, yeah.
But what he wants to do is, the head of German propaganda is about to display this film, which is supposed to be this grand gesture of German cinema and German power, all into one. And everybody's going to be there, including the Fuhrer. But this guy is insisting, because he's hitting on this girl, that the smaller cinema would be better. It's smaller. It's more elite. We don't have to have the riffraff. We can do it here. And Shoshana is, I'm going to call her Shoshana,
her real name,
Yeah, she is resisting this guy in all the polite ways that she possibly can. She doesn't want to be with him.
As a German and as a hidden Jew in France-occupied Germany, right? Or German-occupied France. Holy crap.
And it makes her nervous. But what tops this off is she's forced into a car by German SS. And she thinks, oh shit. And she's taken to a restaurant where the young soldier is there, and the head of propaganda and his translator. They're all having lunch and enjoying, and the young soldier is insisting that this be done, that her cinema be the premier choice. And she doesn't even get a chance to kind of refuse because she's afraid she's going to be found out. Yeah. Well, we find out that the head of security who walks up behind them is Christoph Waltz. And the moment, again, the eyes are great in this because he focuses in on her and she has a freak out. She doesn't freak out here, but you see it in the eyes. You almost see the sweat coming down. And You don't know if he recognizes her or not. You have no idea, because he sits down and they're talking business.
He orders
everyone.
Milk. He orders milk. It's
yes.
like, because he orders milk in the opening scene. He asks for a glass of milk from the dairy farm, right? And then for a drink, he orders her milk with the strudel, and it's like, that is like one of the biggest pieces of evidence that he could know that this is Shoshana. And it's like,
and it gets close too, because he's sitting there. What happens is, he says, "I'd like to talk to her alone." Panic moment right there, as we as the audience are going, "Oh shit!" And he's doing the same thing, kind of, that he did with the neighbor's father. Same thing, where it's that false sense of security, but the panic is still there. And it builds and builds and builds, and he's staring at her, and he's asking her one question after another, and he seems so happy and so kind, but yet menacing. Like, they bring the strudel there, and it's like, oh, I forgot to order the cream, and she goes to eat. He's like, no, not until we have the cream. But it's this moment, like, and then he smiles.
You're so right with when you mentioned Hannibal Lecter a couple minutes ago. Like, you're like, it's like, I can't get that out of my head now. Like, it's so dead on, right? It's that charming, charming evilness, right? Like that. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And he's looking at her, staring at her, and then he goes, "I have one more question for you." And then the cream comes. Yeah. And they begin eating, and he's back to it, and he looks at her and goes, "But you know what? Right off, I can't remember what it is." And he smokes a quick cigarette, puts it out in the cream, and then
the best
leaves.
Looking strudel I've ever seen. Like, I will say, like, we got to take a second to appreciate how good that strudel looks. Like, oh man, I was so hungry watching this again. Like, it's food porn. It's a great looking. Like, I love one of the best shots of food.
She makes the decision to allow this to happen, like she had a choice. It has to happen. Yeah. She has a black lover he's a French black lover. She makes the conscious decision. She has over hundreds of film canisters that are filmed with film that is silver nitrate, and this stuff is 3 times as flammable as
Samuel L. Jackson will tell you in the middle of the film. Yeah. This is, it's like 3 or 6 times or something like that. Yeah, it's crazy.
So she comes up with a plan to burn the theater down with everyone in it, including the Fuhrer. Everyone is there. She is going to burn it down. So that is her plan. Okay. Then we go back to England in the next chapter, where we meet Michael Fassbender and a great cameo by Mike Myers.
And
Mike
Rod
Myers
Taylor.
is a British,
and Rod Taylor as Winston Churchill, like unrecognizable, and in his last film role as Winston Churchill, which is great. But yeah,
we find out that the British and the Allies have a plan. They don't know about the switch yet, but they do know that this film is coming. And they want to go ahead and blow up the cinema to kill everybody. So they have a similar plan that Shoshana does. Yeah. Michael Fassbender is going to be the point man. He plays a British soldier.
He plays a British film critic who became a soldier. It's like, I love that, like, Tarintino like made like a film critic one of like the main like protagonists of this movie, like, coming in.
So they send him into the lines to meet their contact, who is a German actress living in France at that point, Van Hammersmark. Van
Hammersmark. Yeah. Played amazingly by Diane Kruger. Like, holy crap, she's great.
He's to meet her and her contact guys, and she'll get him and his men into the premiere to blow it up. And of course, the men to help are going to be Basterds. They're going to be the ones to help facilitate this process. Now, at this point, I gotta say, this is what I think is the best setup scene in the entire film. Yep. So Fassbender goes into this tiny bar.
Even before that, we get a great exchange before they go into the bar with Aldo Rain and Fassbender talking about, like, why would she set us up in a bar? Like, why in a basement? Like, I don't have to be smart to know I don't want to fight in a basement.
So bitching him out a little bit. But the plan is that Michael Fassbender Hammersmark, and two of the Bastards who
speak. Yeah, the German.
Yeah, they're German,
Austrian, and
which
German,
is Stiglitz and one of the other guys.
Wiki.
I can't remember.
Wilhelm.
This is the problem too with this film is there's so many people I lose track of who's who.
Well, and honestly, that's the thing. It's like the ensemble. While it's great, they're not fleshed out very much. They're pretty much it's Aldo Rain is pretty much like the big guy, right? And it's like Stiglitz kind of, but then we lose Stiglitz in this scene coming up here, right? Yeah. So it's not like it lasts very long.
They go into this bar to set up. So Fassbender and the two guys, they're dressed as Nazi soldiers. Yeah. Okay, as officers. They're dressed as officers. Yeah. That's important.
Captain.
They go into the bar. Now, the bar is supposed to be empty. It's not. There is a group of enlisted German soldiers who are celebrating the birth of one of their men's baby. Yeah. They were given the night off. Yeah. And so they're celebrating with Von Hammersmark, and they're playing heads up.
Yeah, it's like a card game where you write like a famous person on your head and you have to guess like a bunch of questions.
Yeah. I've played versions. We've all played versions of that.
I've only ever played that once, I think. I've not. It's not a game that like we.
But they're hanging out. They're getting rowdy. Everything's going great. Everyone's having a good time. Then Fassbender and his men come in, and he's kind of pissed because it's supposed to be empty. Those men are not supposed to be there. Yeah. And they come in. And he's pretending to be a German officer. He's getting pissed. And the tension is starting to build. The tension keeps building. And the thing with this scene is, like, everything seems innocuous at first. These guys are partying. They're getting rowdy. But then a German officer who's hiding around the corner, he's sitting there reading.
Well, it's not even that. Because Wilhelm gets... They finally get Bridget von Hammersmark away, right? And then Wilhelm, the guy who has a kid, is too drunk, and he approaches the table of officers, right? The table of what he thinks is German officers, and he starts trying to interject himself, eventually sitting down at the table, and Michael Fassbender's character gets like, he breaks, and he like starts yelling at this guy, basically, right? And yelling loud enough that this officer that you mentioned can hear him sitting in the corner, this SS major that comes out, and he says, like, well, you don't have to tell him where your accent is from, but you have to tell me, because I definitely outrank you. And then the tension starts ramping up from there even more.
And it keeps building. Now, okay, this is a good thing about the film that I really like. The film switches between English, French, and German quite frequently.
There's so much subtitle in this film. I love it.
Yeah, and I'll say it's handled very well. It's not confusing. Nope. As long as you're watching the subtitles, it keeps you into it pretty well. Very rarely do they speak a language and don't tell you what they're saying, and if it's not there,
it's for
somebody's translating. Yeah. But they get to this point where it's building up, and you think he's going to call out Fassbender. Yeah. Like, oh no, and then he gives up. Yep. He finally is like, you know what? Okay, I'll tell you what. You're out of drinks. Let me get you some more drinks. How many were you drinking? This is where Fassbender screws up. This is a famous scene. So he holds up 3 fingers. Now, in Germany, when you do the number 3, this is how you do it. Only a Brit or an ally would do this, and it gives them away.
And you can see, and this is another one of those great, like, holds on the face that Tarantino does. Like, the look, because it's from a reverse shot. So you see the back of his hand, and he holds up the 3, and you see just the look on his face change from a smile to just like, oh, I'm going to kill this guy now. Like, this guy is dead.
As that soldier, or the officer, has got a gun under the table pointed at him, because he's kind of known. He's known. But then we realize that Fassbender, also known, he just got a gun pointed at him too. And then Stiglitz comes right next to him, takes the gun and points it right at his band region. And there's a standoff at that point. It's going, all right, what's going to happen? And Fassbender was like, all right, well, and he starts speaking English. And in the English accent, he's like, well, if I'm going to go down here, it's in, what is it? He said,
at least allow me to speak
in England, it's a crime to let good scotch go to waste.
Yeah.
So he drinks the drink, and then all hell breaks loose.
Say a Wiedersehen to your Nazi balls.
Yeah, and a shootout starts to happen, and ironically, the one person who the one person who gets the upper hand is actually the drunk German soldier that they were trying to keep away in the first place. He manages to get a hold of a German machine gun, and he starts mowing people down. Everybody in the room gets shot. Fassbender dies. Stiglitz dies. Those three guys, the bastards, die. And then Hammerschmark gets shot in the leg, but is living.
Yeah.
And then, this guy is freaking out, and you hear from the stairs, you hear Aldo calling down, going, "What's going on now? There wasn't supposed to be a gunfight." He's like, and luckily the German guy speaks English.
Yeah.
And
they call it out too. They lampshade. I love the fact that like Tarantino just totally lampshades it. It's like, you speak pretty good English for a German. It's like, I agree. It's like, it's strange. I agree.
Yeah, the tension at this point, mind you, the tension is building. Yeah. You'd think a gun down of everybody. The tension still keeps building. Yeah. Because you don't know what's going to happen at that point. And the guy opens up and he's like, "Look, I just had a kid. I'm supposed to be celebrating." He's freaking out, and you see it, but he's being a good German soldier. He's ready. Yeah. And Aldo says, "Listen, we don't want you. We don't want to kill you. Let us take the girl, and we call it that. That's it. Yeah. We're not going to do. We're going to leave it alone." And there's still that tension, and as it comes down, so they come down. They manage to get her, which they do.
So on the way down, he sees that he's still holding the MP40. They're like, "No, this is bullshit. We didn't agree to this." And it's like, "This is a Mexican standoff." It's like, "This is not a Mexican standoff. You need guns for it to be a Mexican standoff." It's like, "We got grenades up here."
Standoff.
And then Bridget takes the opportunity to talk Max down, or not Max, sorry, Wilhelm down, and shoot him. Bridget von Hammersmark shoots the German soldier with the kid, and basically like robs this kid of a dad, and then gets out of there.
Yeah, she's a double agent. She is a double agent.
Yeah. And they get her to a vet. They pull her to a vet.
Right. So this is where the plan changes and when everything starts to come together. The German guys are done, though they don't have anybody else that could speak German, but they have guys, according to Brad Pitt, that can speak Italian. And so that becomes the plan, that him and the remaining two are going to go ahead and go. That's how we're going to do it.
Donnie speaks the third most, but I don't speak Italian, sir. As I said, third most. It's like, oh my God.
Funny. Yeah. They go ahead and cast up her leg and say, "Well, how do we explain that your leg was cast?" "Oh, you're German. You were climbing some mountains." You Germans like to do that, don't you? It's so.
And then Londa calls him out on it like immediately. It's like, "Where did you climb a mountain like outside of Paris? That cast looks really fresh. You must have just got it yesterday." It's like
it's part of that tension that he does, that where he's always on. So the Germans do discover what's happened in there. They don't know who was there.
Yeah.
They just know slaughter. We see slaughter. And they go in and they find one woman's shoe and an autograph that she wrote for Wilhelm's son, Max. And she wrote an autograph, gave it a kiss, and there was going to be a present for the boy. Mm-hmm. That's how Orlando discovers who was in there. So he takes the shoe a la Cinderella.
I was gonna say, this is the most fucked up version of Cinderella.
But then everything's starting to come together. So we go back. Shoshana wants to film something, and her buddy, her lover, films something. Right? Yeah, we don't know what it is, and they splice the film together with this German masterpiece. The very end of it,
they interrogate this film producer guy. she gets all dressed up like a man, and she like interrogates him. I love it. I love that scene.
So they get everything set up. Mind you, again, she never has anything to do with the Bastards.
No, this is completely
all the stories are completely separate, and yet it's going on at exactly the same time.
Yeah, takes 2 assassination attempts to kill Hitler.
So Party day happens. Everybody is in the room. Shoshana is all dressed up and beautiful and gorgeous, and she's
playing.
And then Hammersmark, Aldo, and the two men are in the room. And then, of course,
Hans Landa approaches.
Landa is looking for them because he knows.
Yeah.
He knows what's going on. So he asks her and he interrogates her nonchalantly. Again, the same thing he does, that nonchalant. And he says, guys, hey, she's like, you need to find your seats. Go ahead. And so the two bastards minus Aldo go into the theater.
There's a nice
and we
exchange
see as they sit down.
There is a nice exchange between Landa and
the Italian,
Bastards where they're trying to speak Italian because Landa just like, oh, they're Italian, and then he just like blurts out just fluent Italian at them, and then Brad Pitt, yeah, he just yep,
yeah, it's so bad.
Oh man!
But they go in and we find out that they are suicide bombers. They've got bombs strapped to their leg, and so does Brad Pitt. He takes not Shoshana. He takes Van Hammersmark into an office to talk to her. And he's like, I need you to do me a favor. He interrogates her a little bit more, but again, nonchalantly. And he says, I need you to put your good leg up here. And then I need you to reach behind you. His coat is hanging on her chair. And hand me what's in my coat. And it's her shoe. And when she grabs that shoe, she realizes. And again, the eyes, you see it. And he puts it on her perfectly.
We get the Tarintino foot shot.
The Tarintino foot shot. That doesn't happen. But it's kind of this, okay, what do we do now? And then he turns and he leaps at her and he strangles her to death.
Well, again, another weird part of this movie, Quentin Tarantino strangles Diane Kruger. Like, I'm like, that's a little weird. Like, you didn't really need to do that, Quentin. Like, I get it. It's a little weird, man.
So he kills Hammersmark. She is dead.
Yeah.
And he goes back out. And this is where the movie starts to get really kind of wonky, and not in a bad way. He knows what's going on. He has his men hold on to Aldo. He knows what Aldo is. He brings him in to interrogate him.
He captures Aldo and Udovich, right? He captures Aldo and the private.
He captures both of them. He takes the bomb off his leg. He knows it's there. And he has him sent outside with Udovich. And they're sent away. Christoph Waltz goes upstairs. And he goes to meet with where the boxes where the Secretary of Propaganda and Hitler are. And he says, I'm going to have to step out for a little bit. Oh, and then, I'm going to have to step out. Right at that moment, too, the young colonel, or the young soldier who was in love with Shoshana, he excuses himself because he's going to go find Shoshana because he's really smitten by her. Yeah. So he's going to go find her. But he leaves, and then right as Christoph Waltz leaves, you see him kind of walk away. He drops the bomb that he took off of Aldo's leg right behind Hitler.
Yep.
Yeah. So he set that there. He set it there. And he goes out and he meets with Aldo and Yovich. He meets them both. And he says, so here's the deal. Here's the deal. I could pick up this phone, tell them what's going on, and your little plan is stopped. Or we could end the war tonight. What? And he says, so what I want to do, I need a few things. And he wants to make a deal.
Yeah.
He wants to make a deal, which he's not done any of that up to this point, which is interesting that he's so opportunistic that he flips. And this is where I don't know whether he believes it or not, but he says, I don't like my nickname. I don't like what's going on. I don't know if he's being opportunistic, but
I think
whatever.
He might not like the nickname, but I think that like he's still a monster, like no matter what, right? Like he is Aldo Rain, but he's Aldo Rain born in Germany, right? Like he's like they are
he's
two sides of the coin. They are two sides of the coin, right?
So he makes a deal with played in a cameo by voice only by Harvey Keitel. Yeah. He makes a deal with the Allied general that if this plan goes off without a hitch and they all die, that he's to take Aldo's men to the lines. Aldo and his man, we're down to one guy at this point, to the lines, and they're to switch places. He's to surrender. He will get citizenship. He will get a pension. He will get a house land on, what's it, Nantucket.
Yeah, Nantucket Island.
Yeah, you get all of these things taken care of, and they agree to it. Then we switch back. Okay, so we know the plan is going to happen. Yeah. Now we switch back. And it happens almost at the same time. Yeah. So what happens is the film is going on. The German soldier.
The film film within the film was also shot by the Bear Jew himself, Eli Roth. Yeah.
So he goes up to the projector. Shoshana's lover is hiding behind the screen with a giant pile of silver nitrate film. And she's sitting there, and her job is to switch the reels because these movies were done in large reels and they were done over multiple reels. Yeah. So you have to switch cameras and you have to do this.
This ain't digital. This ain't digital, kids.
Yeah. So she does that, and she gets to the fourth reel and puts it up there and is waiting for that point of no return. And there's but what happens is, there's a knock at the door, and it's him, and she rebukes him again and says, "No." And finally, she's like, okay, fine, but we'll have to make this fast. Why? And she walks behind the projector, picks a gun out of her handbag. And
he's very forceful when she rejects him this last time. Like, he actually, like, he's like, I've had enough of this shit. Like, I'm a fucking hero. You need to, like, respect me, and, like, you'd be, like, glad to, like, have me as a boyfriend. And she's like, oh, okay, I get it now. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. But she shoots him down. She shoots him down. She accidentally drops the gun. She dropped her gun. We don't realize it right at that moment. She's kind of had this moment of calm, like, okay, and then she's shot by him and his Luger, his German Luger. Yeah. So she's dead. Yeah. She dies. The soldier dies. But the movie is still playing. And it gets to the end of the film where she spliced it, and she talks to the audience in American and goes, you know what? I wish I had that recorded because it's so good that what she says, it's poignant. But it's basically, I want you to know how it feels to be killed by a Jew. Your death was caused by a Jew. That's right. I'm Shoshana. And she goes through this whole thing. And her last word is, do it now, my love. And he puts a cigarette on it and starts the theater to burn up. And mind you, the two other bastards are still in. They escape. They go up to the box, grab German Tommy.
At the same time, like right before this all happens, right before the switch happens, they are in the bathroom planning this last little thing. They've got these wicked cool like guns on their gloves, little punch guns on their gloves, and it's like, okay, you got 30 feet to do this shit. Like, can you do it? It's like, well, I've got to do it, so I guess.
So they end up killing the guards for Hitler. They grab the machine guns, kill them, and start spraying
Swiss
everything
cheese out of Hitler.
And then the bomb goes off. And so not only is a blaze going on, and everybody's locked into the theater.
Locked into the theater,
They're locked in, but the plan goes off without a hitch from both ends.
Yep.
The bomb, the fire, everything happens. And that's, it kind of blacks out with the explosion, the bomb that goes off. Mm-hmm. Then we go back to Aldo and the remaining bastard. They get to the enemy lines. They switch, and then Aldo's like, oh, thank you, gets out of the cuffs. He asks for his knife back, the weapons, everything, and then he shoots the radio operator, leaving only Christoph Waltz. And Waltz is like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah, he's shocked. He's like, we had a deal. He's like, absolutely. We have a deal. I have a question for you. When you get back to your house on Nantucket, what are you going to wear?
You gonna take that Nazi uniform off? Oh shit!
And then as we mentioned earlier, he carves the swastika into it, and the end of the film is him going, Aldo looking at him. You don't see him, but Aldo looking at him going, "This is my greatest work yet." Yep, and that's how it ends.
Yeah.
I mean, this film does such a good job of storytelling in the group, but it doesn't focus on just the group, which is what I really like about this.
Yeah.
It switches between them and Shoshana, and actually, you spend more time, honestly, with Shoshana than I think you actually do the Bastards.
Well, I was gonna say, like, if anything, this is Shoshana and Hans Landa's movie. Right, like if it's anybody's movie, it's Shoshana's and Hans Landa. Right?
And it's
the
worth
Bastards
noting,
Waltz. There.
Yeah, it's worth noting. Waltz gets the Oscar for this film.
Yes,
he gets the Oscar for this film,
deservedly,
and it's well deserved, absolutely. And the next year he comes back for Django Unchained, gets the Oscar again. Crazy. One of few individuals to do the back-to-back. So that's an amazing feat for this guy, and he's amazing in both. But I think what I really love about this is that team dynamic and this story that Quentin Tarantino can do. Mm-hmm. Tarantino is able to tell you what's going on without telling you what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the master storyteller.
It's his economy of storytelling. I mentioned it earlier, right? Like he knows how much he needs to put into a story to make it work for an audience, right? Like he knows the levels an audience is willing to take and the jumps that they're willing to make in making leaps of logic and stuff like that, right? Like he's got that down to pretty much a science now, it seems.
Your villains are interesting. That's another thing I will say with all Tarantino films. Mm-hmm. The villains are interesting. One of my I really love the fact that Christoph Waltz is just so fascinating when you watch him. You watch him and you just don't know what he's going to do. You don't know when he's going to strike. And that's why I compared him to Hannibal Lecter, because Hannibal Lecter was that way too. You didn't know what was going to happen with that. And Waltz plays it so subdued, so charismatically, so charming, and it's just a beautiful film. The score, and then so besides the Morricone pieces, the songs that are picked in between each of these pieces that accompany the action that's going on are so well done. They're great choices. I mean, everything in this film, cinematography is beautiful in this film. It's perfectly viewed. The pan shots that happen at times are just absolutely gorgeous. I like I said, the eyes. One of the things I love is whenever Hans he's interrogating, just those look at people's eyes and their face. You don't need the rest of their body. Sometimes they do, and even you get this in the opening scene, the first 20 minutes. Yeah, that is amazing stuff. The fear that this man implements. It's an amazing film. Now, it's amazing, but we did team it up with another film that we love that. Not exactly loved by a lot of people.
But honestly, rewatching it, man, this is one of the funnest movies I've seen ever. I think it's still one of the funnest movies ever. And fun. Like that's the scale to rate this one on.
So far for our reviews, this is the closest in time frame that these movies have been done. So
and I was really surprised that Inglorious Basterds came out before this one, actually.
Yeah, I really was surprised by 1 year. Yeah. Inglorious was 2009. The A-Team is 2010. So I don't know about you, Kyle, but I did watch episodes of the A-Team before this.
No, I had never seen, before watching this, and even to this point, I still have never seen an episode of the original A-Team. My dad talked highly of it, and I still have to go watch it for sure.
It's fun, but luckily for this film, you don't need it. Part of the reason is that they mix character traits up, and they mix in, and some are in name only, and you just let that go, and just at the end of the day, what this becomes is just a pure action film.
Yeah,
there's
action
not
comedy.
Much else.
This is a huge action comedy, and I think that, and I saw when the credits were rolling at the beginning of this film, and I saw executive producer Ridley Scott, seeing that. Watching it again is oh yeah, this film makes 100% more sense to me.
Wasn't it Tony Scott?
No, Ridley's. Oh, both of them, Ridley and Tony Scott.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah, And Joe Carnahan, this is directed and written by Joe Carnahan. Like, this guy brought you The Grey with The Year Later with Liam Neeson. One of my I was gonna say I like Smoking Aces. That's one of my, like, another one of these like fun, just total action packed movies. And that I agree.
He also directs the Blacklist episodes of The Blacklist, which is a great show on NBC.
I watched the first season. I liked it. I was always convinced that, like, I have a conspiracy theory that this is the first time I've ever aired it, like, on anywhere. But, like, I was convinced that they only made The Blacklist to give James Spader a villain role so that people would buy him as Ultron in Avengers. Because I was like, who would buy it, like, James Spader as a villain? Like, that doesn't make sense. I mean, like, it was the same time, and I was like,
That's another movie for another discussion, trust me.
Yeah, actually, that's a good one.
But yeah, this team, I mean, okay, so while in Inglorious Basterds, the first 20 minutes of our film was methodical, quiet, set up our characters really well, the first 20 minutes of the A-Team sets up our characters really well, but is the exact opposite of Inglorious Basterds, 100%. It's all action, quips, jokes, it's all there. It really is the seminal action film, kind of. Yeah. So we're introduced pretty much right away to Liam Neeson, Colonel Hannibal
Smith.
Sorry.
Yeah. And he's
John Hannibal Smith.
Yeah, he's being interrogated by police in Mexico. This is like again, this is this weird time in American cinema where pretty much, like, if you wanted a bad guy, like, you could go like, oh, we're going to do the cartel, right? And if you're doing the cartel, you could just, like, it's weird now looking back at it, like, racially. It's not real cool, like, making Mexicans bad guys all the time. But, like, it's like, it is a product of its time, right? So it's just, it's worth noting that, like, it still wasn't cool at the time.
So this film right away, it's scored by Alan Silvestri.
I was gonna mention this because we've been talking, like, one of the biggest issues we've had with, like, our quote worst movies has been the score, and I fucking love this score. I love this score so much.
The A-Team theme is great. I love the A-Team theme.
But even the other pieces in the movie, I actually really like some of the other pieces in the movie. In the when they're in Frankfurt and there's that big action piece, I actually really like that action score piece. Like, that sounds like a really fun, like, workout piece to me. It's like, ooh.
I think Michael Bay and Ninja Turtles 2 might have taken from that scene, but we'll get to that. So why don't you tell us a little more about this introduction?
So basically Hannibal escapes and he goes to rescue Peck, and we run into, well, first B.A. Baracus decides he needs to get back his car, his baby, his van, the original A-Team van that everybody else knows and loves, and that I know from pictures and love. And we're introduced to, like, what I think is actually one of the better sports an athlete turned performers is Quinten Rampage Jackson as B.A. Baracus. Like, we get a nice little action scene of him beating up all this, basically like a car ring that he's been forced to steal cars for to fix up his car. And
right.
he, like,
for people who don't know, the role was originally played by Mr. T. So even if you don't know it, you probably know Mr. T at that point. I pity the fool. That's all.
That's basically where that character that is that character. Mr. T is B.A. Baracus, basically, right? Like, that's his character. And so as B.A. gets his car back and he goes in the desert, Hannibal jumps in the road and makes him stop and shoots him in the arm. Like, he shoots a dude in the arm and makes him drive. Finds out he's a ranger, and then we're introduced to Bradley Cooper. And I love Bradley Cooper because this is like he's like they took his character out of Wedding Crashers or something and just threw him in here.
Bradley Cooper in this film reminds me of Jai Courtney in Suicide Squad, or what they wanted Jai Courtney to be.
Yeah.
Jack Courtney didn't get enough chance to be that, but that's what that reminds me.
I still like Jack Courtney though. He was still better than he had any right to be in that movie. But
yeah, Bradley Cooper's got the pearly whites. He's charming, and
he's trying to fend for his life after sleeping with the drug lord's wife, and he's in tires, and he's being lit on fire.
Not to be hung. Yeah.
And he's rescued by BA and by Hannibal, but not before being rolled down a hill in tires to be saved later. And basically they're on the run from this Mexican guy, and they have to go into a VA hospital. And in this VA hospital, we are met with Sharlto Copley, who plays Murdoch from you'll know him from District 9, and he was great in that, and I think he plays like this great, just out of his mind character. He stitches up BA with a lightning bolt. He sets Peck on fire. He swings off the rotors of the helicopter.
He's a genius engineer and pilot.
Yeah, and chef. Oh god, the chef. Yeah, the scene later when he's cooking on the barbecue.
Here's your toast points.
It's like, well, and it's like do you want the antifreeze? And it's like, no, I don't want any of that, or special sauce. And it's like, no, I don't want any of your antifreeze. I got Bell's palsy the last time. It's like, it's only partial paralysis.
Yeah, but he steals a helicopter.
They steal a helicopter off the roof of the hospital, and they have this big long chase sequence, which I think is a wicked helicopter chase sequence. He diverts heat-seeking missiles by flying his helicopter super high up in the air and turning it off, stalling it out, turning it off totally, and going cold, and the heat seekers crash into each other, and then he has to reset the helicopter before they crash down, therefore making an airborne ranger no longer want to fly anymore. He terrifies B.A. Baracus out of ever flying again. What did he say, like 263 jumps he had, and now he can't fly anymore. Oh, you froze up for me, Chris. Oh, there you go.
Did I freeze?
Oh, you're good. You're coming back.
Okay, there we go. We reset. Yeah. Okay.
So right. So they pull Tuco over the American American border, and one of my favorite, I use this all the time when I was growing up, because like 2010 was like it was a year before I graduated high school. So if you want to like age me there, so like I loved Alpha Tango Alpha Mike Foxtrot, like it's just adios motherfucker, like that's a great that's a great catchphrase.
They have two catchphrases in this film. Both of them for the most part are Liam Neeson's, although others will try to use them. It's Alpha Mike Foxtrot, and then I love it when a plan comes together, which actually was used in the original
from
series.
The original, I know that.
So and it's great because one of the things about Liam Neeson's character originally, he's always chomping a cigar, and he's always got these big cigars, and it's this display of manliness, and it's just that's what these guys are. They're Army Rangers, and it's all of that. And that's the first 20 minutes of the film is just this that's just you introducing meeting them. It has no other purpose other than that. Nope. Like none, but it's fun.
But it's great, and it works. Like I don't think it fits in with the film. Like I like these, like really, like it. We ended up with a world I found of like origin stories recently, right? Like a lot of things are the get together, the beginning. We need a lot to get to the first thing, blah blah blah, right? Where it's like no, it's like they got together. Like this is how they got together. It takes 20 minutes to show you how they got together. Like it's the first episode of a pilot of a TV series, basically, like a half-hour pilot, right? Like there you go. We're together, off to the races. 8 years later, 80 missions later, boom, we got it. These guys are a team, right? And then we can get into the main story here.
Yeah. So the main story of this thing basically is it's the end of the Iraqi conflict. The second one. It's supposed to be the end. And what we find out is that when the Americans first came in, they had put a small mint in that part of the world to help facilitate funds, in that part of the world. So there are plates and a machine. What happened was that
Saddam
the plate and the
machine,
he stole the plates and the press. They got the press back, but not the plates. And so allegedly these plates are going through Baghdad. The A-team and everyone else is under orders not to go into Baghdad and go after it. But the CIA comes in and says, hey, we need those plates. We want you guys to do this. And there's this argument between the general. Okay, the general is, again, in another form of casting that is reminiscent of old TV. The general is played by
Gerald McRaney.
Let me bring it up. Thank you. Okay, Gerald, he got promoted. Gerald McRaney, if you're not familiar, was also a Marine in the TV series Major Dad, which was on for a long time. So he played a major for the longest time. Now he's finally got the general, but he had to go in the army to do it.
Yeah.
He's the general. And Hannibal says, listen, Liam Neeson says, we can go in there. Yeah. Send my guys in there. General's like,
he wants to send these like black ops, this kind of what do they call it? A contractor, military contractor.
Team. It's not even soldiers.
Yeah, contractors. Yeah. He wants to. They want to.
Yeah, he wants to send them in instead. And Liam Neeson's like, hell no. What are you thinking? And the CIA is encouraging the general to send people in to go get it. So the general agrees to go ahead and send the 4 guys in. But it is a pure black ops mission. He is ordering them to go, sort of. He kind of puts that up, but it is an order.
Yeah.
But he does not put it on paper. He just gives them, it's a black ops order. So they go in, they manage to get the plates. The mission is a success.
There's a wicked, like, I love the setup they do to this, because they like to, like, we get this kind of like time that they have at the camp, right? We talked about it earlier, like Murdoch is making food, right, where he's cooking with antifreeze and stuff like that. Peck is like sitting with his feet in a kiddie pool, tanning outside, and eventually they pay $50. They give some troops $50 and they cut some dude's hair, give him $100 and give him a bunch of beer to party and pretend like they're not planning this thing, and they steal a door off of one of the military contractors' cars and stuff like that. So they build this big elaborate plan, like, and they have this nice big electromagnet that they have, and they have this plan that they set off in motion in Baghdad, where, like, I don't know how the hell that you don't break your back holding an electromagnet up out of a manhole and getting hauled by a semi out by it. Like, holy crap, it hit your back on that thing, you're dead.
Hey, we've watched Harrison Ford get dragged. We've watched Keanu Reeves get hit and go at 55 miles an hour, get his legs slammed on concrete. These people can do this, apparently.
Yeah, that's fair.
So,
that's fair. So, yeah, so they get this money.
Yeah, they succeed. Yeah. The mission succeeds. They bring it back to base. Everything seems great. The general says he's on his way in. Then the general's car is blown up. And then they run to the car to see what's going to happen. And then the container holding the plates and the money that was in it is also blown up. So all the evidence is blown up. The general is blown up.
And the Black Ops guys are running away. The Black Ops guys are running away with the plates.
Got the plates.
Yeah.
And they're running away. I guess we should talk about Jessica Alba, too, because she's kind of important here.
Well, no, Jessica Biel.
Oh, Biel. I'm sorry. Wrong Jessica. How many times do I do that? Jessica. You know what, Jessica though? Biel. Honestly, is there much difference between Jessica Biel and Jessica Alba in the end?
Yes, yes, because they're both extremely awesome and beautiful in their own ways. I like both of them. Okay. Invisible Woman is awesome.
Invisible, sure. But then she did Spy Fantastic Four. She did Spy Kids 4, really?
Well, yeah, I didn't see that one. Yeah, I know about her recently, but yeah, Jessica Biel recently has been good. Anyway, Jessica Biel. Yes, Jessica Biel.
Yeah. So Jessica Biel is she is also in the army.
She's Peck's X. She's Face's X.
Yeah, she's Face's X, and she's kind of the logistics person here. She's there to ensure that the plates, that everything is run smoothly because it's on her.
She's like a higher separate branch. She's like overseeing. She gets to wear civilian clothes, and that gets her into kind of trouble with the general earlier before like he blows up. It's like she talks to him because she's only a captain, and she's like demanding things of this general, and this general's like, you better watch your fucking tone. You're still in the military, and it's like those are the kind of things I like because it's like, even though this is very clearly like military propaganda, and we've talked about this before with like superhero movies, right? Like when they stick to real things, like later on they'll say like they don't say bazooka, they say sma. Like he shot a sma. Like he hit me with a sma, which is like a rocket launcher, but it's like a specific type, right? Like I do like the attention to detail in that case.
So the 4 men are brought up on charges of so many things: dereliction of duty, lots of stuff, because the general has ended up dead. There is no one who can corroborate that the general made the order for them to go.
He made no paper
and so
trail.
they are stripped of rank, dishonorably discharged, and basically put in prison. Separate prisons, separate prisons
for 10 years.
And then Jessica Biel, for her part in it, is demoted down to lieutenant, and is reprimanded for her action, for her inability to stop everything from happening, apparently. And so we fast forward ahead 6 months, and then the real part of this story begins.
So Lynch shows up to visit Hannibal in prison, and Lynch is, we didn't mention him before, but he's basically the linchpin to the story, right? He's a CIA guy played by Patrick Wilson, and he's the guy who introduces this op to Hannibal in Baghdad when they're first there. He introduces it to them, and then they go talk to the general about it. So when Lynch comes back and he talks to Hannibal in prison, he's like, okay, there's this Arab that's selling that's trying to buy the plates or sell the plates. And it's like, this is all the picture we have of it. And he pulls out this real fuzzy picture and it slides it across to Hannibal. And Hannibal laughs, and then he pulls out another picture. And it's very clear. It's much more clear than the CIA's picture.
Yeah.
And then he's like, you give me 2 hours, I'm this. You give me 2 days, I'm this. But you give me 6 months, I'm unbeatable. And it's just like, yup. So it's like, so he works with Lynch and the CIA to break him and then eventually the rest of them out of jail. What he does is he uses a cigar full of tetrodotoxin, which is I'm pretty sure it's the pufferfish toxin, right? That's the pufferfish toxin, where it
puts him to sleep in like a comatose,
almost all nearly dead state. And he's like, get the dosage exactly right, because he wakes up right before he's about to be cremated in the morgue, and in a funny scene where the morgue guy is acting like it's his dojo, and he gets scared basically to death by a dead man.
Yeah,
but.
Liam Neeson gets the guys back together. Yeah. Face is living it up. He's almost in parole. He's ready to go.
He's sleeping with he's sleeping with guards and stuff like that. He's got no shame.
He's got flat screen TVs in his cell. He's talking about a lap pool being built. He's got a tanning machine in the other building.
He gives people boots, like he gives the guards boots and stuff like that. He gives people gifts. Yeah, he runs into the original face in the tanning booth room. Yeah, he runs into the original face, and
that's where he's kidnapped by Liam Neeson.
Hannibal. Yeah.
And they go to he convinces them, let's do this to clear our names. Yeah. They go to get Baracus, who is being transported to another prison, and they manage to grab him. Now, the thing about Baracus is that he, at this point, is taken a vow of nonviolence.
Yeah.
He is following the works of Gandhi and a Buddha, and so he's going to not kill anymore. And the thing is, one of the defining features to Baracus is Mr. T's mohawk.
Yeah.
That was classic and integrated into it. In this film, when we see him again, he's got kind of a little mini fro. Yeah,
he's just growing out his hair. Yeah.
So we think he's in the bathroom and he's got the razor clippers. Yeah. We think that's what he's going to do. He gets out there and they look at him like, we gave you a razor. I know.
I couldn't do it, man.
It's shorter. And he tells this story about what the mohawk means.
Yeah.
That why he is what he is.
He always felt like he was at war. Yeah.
And so, he says, I'll help you, but I'm not going to kill. I won't do it. So together they go and they break. They
have to go to Germany. They have to go to Germany to break Murdoch out of a mental facility, a VA mental hospital. And I love this.
Really? No, because they break him out before, because Murdoch's the one that flies them there.
Well, the hospital is in Germany.
Is it?
Yeah. It is in
Oh,
Germany, and they
okay.
So they break. They break him out of. I love the way they do it too. They send him this video with 3D glasses. They get them all to do it, and then we have this little like when Murdoch sees Biel, he says El Diablo because he sings a song earlier in the movie. It's like, and then it's like he's talking to Face, and he's like El Diablo means devil, doesn't it? And he's like, yeah, man, like like that's what it means. And so they break through the wall of it, and everybody.
And what's the name of the film they show? The Great Escape.
The Great Escape, yeah. And they break through the wall, and now all the patients in the mental facility they're all happy, and they're all enjoying this 3D movie. And they break out with Face. They commandeer a giant plane.
130. Yep.
Yeah. And then they get in the air, and as they get in the air, they're being chased by a bunch of UAVs and drones and stuff. And they manage to get rid of a couple of them, but not before the plane gets totally destroyed. And they think that, oh shit, they're all in trouble. They didn't survive. And then they're in a tank falling to the earth. And this is the make or break for the movie, because this is either where it's like you love it or you hate it, because they fly a tank, and I love it. Like like part of me wonders, like, I really want to know how much of that like is like you think about it, like that's got to be possible, right? Like it does put out a lot of force, and they're just flying through the air, right? So they got to be able to push themselves. I don't think they'd survive. I don't think they'd survive.
Personally.
Yeah. I don't think they'd survive at all, but like I love it. And then there's a German man who's cheating fishing
Using dynamite fish.
by using dynamite.
His wife's on the shore going, you know that's cheating.
And then they get like, there's like, what was that boom? That sounded like a bigger boom than the dynamite that we're used to. And then she laughs as he gets blown. Basically, he like
to Berlin.
that would like kill that dude. They'd kill that old dude if they flew into the lake at that kind of speed right next to him. But yeah,
they did it because they're parachuting down, but they're going a little too fast.
Yeah.
So they used the gun as a way to kind of slow their descent
and break the surface tension of the water. Probably helped a little too. But yeah, so I doubt that they would just survive that. But anyway, so they asked for directions to Berlin, and basically, what do they do? Ask for directions to Berlin, and this is that Frankfurt scene that we were talking about. We've mentioned earlier. This is where like you said that Michael Bay stole this for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I think he did.
This is a good scene though. I really like this scene. Like this is another thing where it's like the action. Looking at the reviews for this movie, was a lot of it was the action is very incomprehensible, right? Like, and to a degree, I can agree with that. There was a lot of really close and fast cuts, but I think for a lot of it too, it's not completely incomprehensible, but it is definitely in the style of that Jason Bourne kind of Bourne Identity fast cut, like shaky cam action scene to hide
so
things.
They end up in Berlin. Berlin apparently is where the plates are being hid.
Yeah.
They're being hid in this one spot, and they've been over time, month by month, more plates are being brought in until they're all together, and they have this Arab backer. That's what they figure is going on. So what they need to do is they want to get the plates, and they need to get the backer. Mm-hmm. So they go into Berlin, and we get another chasey action scene where they're going to kidnap the backer and they're going to get the plates. Mm-hmm. There comes a point, these action scenes are great. Don't get me wrong. I love good action scenes. But there becomes a point where it's just, all right, what's the next action scene? All right, what's the next action scene? Because that's what they do. That's what these guys do.
Yep.
That's kind of their thing. So they do manage that. They get the plates. They get the backer. The backer, the Arab, when they take off, we found out it's a disguise, and it's actually the general.
Well,
and the general faked his death.
Yeah, the most disguise it is his headpiece, because it's mostly just the general with a giant beard, right?
I thought it was like Scooby-Doo. General Morrison! Yeah.
It was you!
I would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for you kids.
Yeah. Hannibal is pissed, and he secretly records talking to Morrison, because that'll be useful later. Like, you would always do that when talking to the bad guy.
He gets in contact with Lynch and says, hey, Lynch, I've got Morrison and I have the plates. And Lynch is like, great, awesome. And he's like, but here's the deal. I'll get you my guys. I need in writing. I need this taken care of now. We will bring you everything. I want this taken care of. How long will that take you? And he's like, I don't know, about 5 minutes. And we look, and he's looking at a computer laptop of a strike coming in. That's about 5 minutes.
This is where we find out what Lynch is definitely not a good guy. Like, there's been it's very hinted at, but like, he could be like, is he helping for his own reasons, or is he doing his own thing?
At this point, as they're interrogating the general, we find out what has going on. Yeah. The general or Lynch. Okay, if I remember this correctly. Sorry, this gets confusing.
It is a little confusing, yes.
Lynch is in on it with Pike,
yes,
the leader of the mercenaries,
Black
basically,
Forest,
to go and get those plates and to use those plates.
Yeah.
I believe Lynch tells Pike tells Morris, this is what's going on, and Morris is going to double-cross Lynch.
Well, I think they were all working together. Yeah, they were all working together, and they double-crossed each other.
Triangle betrayal is what it does, and they find out basically that everybody was against them.
Yeah, there's a nice little scene when they're in the car, when Lynch is in the car with the agent. The agent Brian Bloom plays Brock Pike. He's the main bad guy agent from the guys, and he's a co-writer on the film. That guy. So that guy wrote the film with Joe Carnahan as well. But it's like he's got one of the agents messing with like the silencer, but he's like, it's a suppressor, and it's like, Jesus, can I just ask for one thing? Is you don't let this guy kill me? Can you get somebody else to kill me? And I love that little scene in there before that's right before he sends that plane in to kill him.
Yeah. So they end up arguing with each other, thinking who turned on, it's the standard. Who do we believe? I can't believe it, And then the plane comes in and blows up the shack that Morris was in. Yeah. So Morris is dead. Their only witness and evidence is dead. Yeah. Dead again. So they have to figure out what's going on. And that's when Face says, you know what? Give me a couple minutes to think. I think I got a plan. And we find out he starts to develop a plan. Now, normally the plans are developed by Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
It's now being developed by him. So they get to eventually get to an airport.
Take a trip on a ship, yeah.
Yeah. They get to an airport and they plant a burner phone onto Jessica Biel.
Yeah. I think that was in Frankfurt. Yeah, that was in Frankfurt. That was back before.
It still plays into it. Yeah. They still
they use that to contact her. Yeah.
Lynch and the CIA are tracking Jessica Biel's communications.
Yeah.
Right, their official communications.
Yeah.
They don't know about the burner phone. So what happens is they call Jessica Biel. Yeah. Has an official call with Lynch hears, and they hear, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to meet you at the LA shipping yard.
They pretend that he's still alive.
We're going to bring Morrison in the plates. They say, right. But then Face calls her on the burner phone, and
presumably
we kind of think that she's in on, something else is going to happen. And then the climax of our film is about to take place. He's building this plan. And he talks about misdirection. It's going to be about misdirection and distraction and separation. And it starts this very, very elaborate
biggest 3-card Monty ever.
Oh my God, yes. Using shipping shipping containers.
Using shipping containers and cranes to, like, I don't even know how you would, like, I don't even know if that's physically possible. Every time I watch that, it's like, they can't cross over like that, can they?
Okay, I mean, like, I'm doing the math.
I'm trying to think.
If they move up and around, maybe.
I
give it a maybe.
I don't mind, though.
But yeah, basically, what happens is Morrison and Liam Neeson kind of go hide into one of these. They don't know which one, and they start mixing them up. And the idea is that they're supposed to go in and figure out which one it is, but then they're going to separate the men.
Yeah.
Well, that starts to work. They do distractions with fireworks, and it starts to work.
Lynch is falling for it until Pike.
Lynch gets pissed.
Yeah, and Pike Pike gets pissed and he steals a rocket launcher from one of the guys, and it's like fuck your Pike or fuck your plan face, and he shoots the shipping container, and it's
he
like
blows up the ship and
starts
to sink the ship, and it blows the entire plan. Up until they're working through this, and what happens is they have Morrison. Basically, it's going to go through an elaborate action scene, and it's a lot to describe. You have to see it. It is what it is.
I gotta say, it is a little over the top. I wish it was like, this movie is a great, like, I like the cinematography in this movie for the most part, because it is very that Ridley Scott kind of like 2000s stuff, like that contrasty, like high light sources, lots of deep shadows and stuff, but then it kind of loses that in this third act, right? It's real dark and stuff.
It does. Basically what finishes this out is Hannibal and Lynch go toe to toe. Hannibal leads Lynch into a kind of destroyed out shipping container that has Morrison and the plates in it, and he says, they're right there, let's end this. And then Lynch takes a gun, points it at Morrison's head, and shoots, and we see blood, and we think Morrison's dead. And we hear Morrison's voice, but he's dead. He opens up the plates are there, everything's great. This is perfect. But then what happens is Morrison starts talking, and he sits up again, and he starts freaking out. And they have that moment, basically, that monologuing moment where they're like, neener, we got you. The thing lifts up, and all the authorities are around, having listened into what's going on. We find out that Morrison was actually Murdoch in an iron helmet with ketchup packets around it.
Kevlar. They melted down the Kevlar to make a Kevlar
I thought it was like an iron helmet.
No, it was Kevlar.
What it was.
It was Kevlar. They melted down Kevlar vests. Yeah,
I thought it was an iron helmet.
Yeah, and on the boat they have they show ketchup packets and stuff like that. Hannibal messes with a couple toys to make it like, I don't know how he made Mama sound like Lynch, but like, I'll forgive that, whatever.
It's very convoluted. It's hard to go with, but it's all action.
It's all fun.
All action.
It's all fun.
Yeah. And so he gets caught. He's taken away ironically by Lynch,
by John Hamm.
Yeah, the next Lynch down the line. Yeah. And then Jessica Biel kisses face and says,
"Well, they get arrested. They get arrested again. They think they're free.
Prison.
Yeah, and they got arrested for escaping prison. And then Jessica Biel runs up to Face and gives them a nice deep tongue kiss. Her two lackeys that she's had this entire time, who they're pretty funny. They're standing there awkwardly.
They let him have the moment.
Yeah,
and then they get the four guys, and they're like, "All right, what are we gonna do now?" And they're panning around to each of them, and they get to Bradley Cooper, and he's like, "Boss, I hate to take away your line, but I love it when a plan gets together." And he spits out the handcuff key, and then you hear the closing remarks, which is the
opening of the
original A-Team opening, basically.
The narration,
is what it is. Yeah, and then the film ends. I mean, it's all this film is. This is not an Oscar winner by any means.
God, no.
It is not. It has absolutely zero intellectual content to it. Really.
Yep.
Really.
Yep.
And yet, I love it.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable to sit there and just watch things get... just those 20 minutes alone, I could rewatch that initial 20 minutes over and over again.
I love that. That opening scene. Oh.
Yeah. It's a good film. So, I mean, these two together, we've got this idea of that team coming together.
Yeah.
That team... while Tarantino is all about the story and driving things forward through ambience, through camera angles, through music, A-Team is just about in your face, action, 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 quip, 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 action, quip, quip, action, action, quip, action, quip, action, end the film. That's all it's about. So, I mean, there's nothing else much to it, but it's enjoyable. If you like that sticky, sweet, bad for you type of film. It's not sticky, sweet, and like it's sweet.
It's not sweet.
It's just like it's candy. It's candy.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah,
it's
it
pure
is.
Sugar.
Yeah,
it's gonna
pure
rot your
popcorn.
brain, but who
pure
cares?
pure candy corn. It's pure candy corn, right? Like that's what it is. Yeah. So
that's what this is.
So it has a 49%. The A-Team has a 49% on Rotten Tomatoes. Does it deserve 49% on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah, it does.
You think it does? You think it does? You don't think
it doesn't have? The reality is, it doesn't have much else going for it. And
okay, see,
it really, I think it's banking off of it's supposed to be banking off of Liam Neeson and Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson is Liam Neeson. You know what you're getting when you get Liam Neeson.
Yeah. This is
Bradley
one of, like,
Cooper,
the start. This is the start of his action phase, though, right? It's like right after Taken, right? So.
Mm-hmm. Bradley Cooper is charming. Bradley Cooper is an amazing actor.
He's great.
See Silver Lining Playbook.
I watched the beginning of A Star Is Born the other night, and I couldn't finish watching it because like I cried like a baby the first time I watched it. I've only seen it once because I can't rewatch that fucking movie.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's brilliant. Yeah. Bradley Cooper's amazing. But that's what this film is going off of, and a little bit of that nostalgia with people.
Yeah.
The problem is that it bears only by name and characters any resemblance to the original. Okay. The basic premise is there, but the thing in the original TV show is that they're all about helping people who have been wronged.
Yeah.
If you need help, if you need somebody, call the A-Team.
It is
now the
a big
idea that they're
story.
fugitives is still accurate. But this movie was about saving their own skin.
Yeah.
It wasn't about helping others as much.
It's a lot of setup, right? It's a lot of setup for the next movie, right?
It
that
loses
never happened.
it. And there was no next movie. Even Liam Neeson has said, I watched it. I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea. When Liam Neeson says that, you're like, I'm out.
Yeah, fair. Fair.
It's fun.
I love it.
And the guys are fun for what they are.
Yeah, I think it is an endlessly enjoyable, rewatchable movie. I think that like whether that means it's 49% or whatever percent that means, like this is why I kind of want to do this show, right? Like because like these movies, even though they're rotten, they're considered not great. Like there's something there. There is something there that is the great team dynamic and a great action. It's just a fun action-filled movie, right? Like Tarantino has the substance. That's surprising to say, but like Tarantino,
it's campy action in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But we say campy action, and we say campy sometimes like it's a bad thing. But what if camp could be fun for the sake of camp? Right? So what if I suggest to you, in honor of losing one of the most 90s directors that have ever existed. This week we lost Joel Schumacher.
Yes, we did.
Say what you will about the man. He's made films that we still talk about today.
Mm-hmm. Some of my I will say some of my childhood favorite Batman movies. In that.
And so I thought it would be fun if we put camp up against camp. We take really good recognized camp and put it up against camp that is not exactly liked. In fact, some would say is the film that almost killed Batman.
What do you got?
So I think we do 1966 Batman the movie up against Batman and Robin.
Oh,
camp against camp.
Oh man, you guys are good in for a treat. I love Batman and Robin. Like unironically love this movie. this is like I think it's a very good horrible movie. Like it is like I acknowledge it, but I can't wait. We have 1 minute.
You can be on that all you want.
We have 1 minute until the recording runs out. I just thought I'd let you know you did time that perfectly, but we're gonna run out of space real quick here. So, Chris, thank you very much.
So.
You sign off. Any last words that you have?
I love Quentin Tarantino. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great night. Thank you for joining us. See you next week. Bye.